love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always
Namaste friends. In today's lecture, we are going to be seeing a quick recap of EC2. As I said, we have to feel proud of ourselves. We have touched the EC2, which is the backbone of AWS. We have done some hands-on lab. We understood about the security groups. We understood how to actually boot it up. We understood about the bootstraps, metadata, user data, the different types of EC2 combinations, we also terminated the instance. So right now I think it's a good time to actually do a quick recap in order to understand what is what. I think it's worth the time. All right, so let's actually take it. So what is a EC2? As I said, EC2 is like a virtual machine hosted in the AWS area instead of your own data center. Okay, in S3 you can't mount a database and stuff, but in the EC2 you can actually select your capacity, and it's like pay per use. It's like a la carte. Whatever food that you need, you actually pay for it, and sizable. Okay, so that is like that. And what are all the different EC2 pricing options? On demand, spot, dedicated, reserved. A spot is basically 90% off the on demand. The on demand is pay per the hour or the second. The spot is remember the stock option. You bid for a price. As long as it is slightly below the bidding price, it is there. If it actually increases, remember the spot block and when to terminate. So that is a spot. And remember where the spot is actually used, where the application is flexible. A reserved is basically 1 to 3 years you have to reserve it, and it is 72% off at least the on demand. And a dedicated is only for you and you and you. So there is like a government and stuff of that is dedicated. Okay, so we also went into the AWS command line and we actually tried few commands. We gave the users a list privilege, and we also tried some user groups. We saw about the secret access key, and we also saw about don't share the key pairs, and we saw what all it actually supports, like Linux, Windows and Mac operating systems. So the tips to actually remember is the preferred options, avoiding hard coding of your credentials, the policies, the updates, attaching and detaching. So while the EC2 is actually running, you can't totally detach. You have to stop or terminate it and then wait for 6 hours. So we saw that. So the security groups is the changes to your security groups takes place immediately. Any person can't come into your house. You actually decide the person who actually comes to your house, but any person can actually go. This is the example I gave you. So by default, all outbound traffic is allowed. Inbound traffic is blocked. You can have multiple security groups attached to an EC2 instance. Okay. And you can have any number of EC2 instances within a security group. We saw about the bootstrap scripts. It's a script that runs when the instance first runs. It is booting. Booting means when it's actually starting. So when the instance first runs, it is a bootstrap. If it passes user data, install applications. Okay, this can be done like the M update. So when the instance is actually running and actually starting, what would you do? Like updating, install the applications, and those things it has been already taken care, right? So that is a bootstrap. We saw about the user data and metadata. A user data is simply a bootstrap. A metadata is a data's data, and we saw about the curl command. Okay, you can use a bootstrap script user data to access the metadata. We saw about the correct networking device, ENI, enhanced networking. The ENI for the basic networking. Enhanced networking is from 10 Gbps to 100 Gbps, and elastic fabric network is for high performance, and that is done by bypassing the OS bypass. So in a scenario where they actually ask for high performance and machine learning, by default is EFA. Basic is ENI. 10 to 100 Gbps is ENA. Elastic enhanced networking. And we saw about the type of placement groups: spread, partition, cluster. A cluster is low network latency, high throughput. I always say like a soccer match live or a cricket match live, I can't miss a second. So that is low network latency and high network throughput. A spread is individual critical EC2 instances. A partition is basically partitioning it. This is like HBase, Cassandra, multiple EC2 instances. And we also saw that a cluster placement group can't span multiple availability zones, whereas the remaining two can. Only certain types can be launched. AWS recommends homogeneous instances. You can't merge placement groups. The remaining one is like, you can just move an existing instance into a placement group, okay, but you have to do through the command line interface or the SDK. There is no this thing. The dedicated host, we actually saw that is a physical server, so we actually saw that it's like special licensing requirement. And then we saw about the spot instance and the spot fleet. Spot instances, we saw that 90% off, and you can use spot, the spot instances from terminating. We use a spot block. This is what I actually mentioned at the time. A spot fleet, remember I said like a fleet is like a fleet of ships, warships or something. So it's a collection of spot instances and optionally on demand. Now say suppose if I need 5 instances, I can have 3 spot instances, 2 on demand, depending upon the capacity, depending upon the price. That I automatically chooses the combination, and even if you actually lose one, you're going to have the other one. Okay. Spot instance with a defined durations, also known as spot blocks, which is no longer supported. You can deploy a virtual center on the AWS cloud using a VMware, and we also saw about the VMware. Okay. And outposts. So outpost is you're bringing the AWS itself into your data, okay, into your private space. That is called the outpost, to your data center. You use an AWS outpost for large deployments, and you use an AWS outpost rack for large deployment and servers for a smaller deployments. I trust with this quick recap would have actually helped you. You can always keep this and be ready for the exam, just the notes. So that is why I made this video. And if you have any questions, kindly contact me. You know where to contact me. And I want to thank you for giving me your time. Till we see next time, take care. Cheers. Thank you.